Warm greetings to all. Myself Dr. Vinita, working as Research Officer under Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of SkyTech Central Conference for providing the researchers an opportunity to disseminate their research activities to the worldwide scientific community. Homeopathy as an alternative system of medicine is gaining importance worldwide. Central Council for Research in Homeopathy and the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India is a statutory organization for doing the clinical research as well as the fundamental research activities under homeopathy in India. So the present session is based upon the publication on Meniere's disease titled Evaluation of Outcome of Homeopathic Medicines in the Management of Meniere's Disease, which was published in International Journal of Ayush Case Reports. So the present case series was done in National Homeopathy Research Institute in Mental Health, Kottayam, Kerala. Before going to the research proper, we will be having a brief discussion on the pathophysiology, clinical features, differential diagnosis, homeopathic management as well as the conservative management. So coming to the definition of Meniere's disease. So Meniere's disease is considered as an idiopathic syndrome in which there is a triad of symptoms, that is a vertigo, tinnitus and hearing impairment. It is considered as a chronic, progressive, lifelong condition. So why it is known as an idiopathic syndrome? The exact cause is unknown. So once we are going for the autopsy of the deceased patients with Meniere's disease, we can find that there is endolymphatic hydrops in the inner ear compartment. But this endolymphatic hydrops is not unique to Meniere's disease. It is found in some other conditions like diabetes and head trauma also. So the endolymphatic hydrops in Meniere's disease is known as primary endolymphatic hydrops, whereas the others are known as secondary endolymphatic hydrops. The pathophysiology of Meniere's disease. So in order to understand what's the pathology behind Meniere's disease, we need to understand what is the normal ear. Usually the ear is divided into the outer compartment, the middle ear compartment and the inner compartment. Inner compartment is having the membranous labyrinth which is lining the body labyrinth inside the semicircular canals and the cochlea. And usually this membranous labyrinth is filled with a fluid called endolymph. It normally circulates and stimulates the receptors which signal information to the brain regarding the body movement and position. And these receptors are found in the semicircular canals as well as the otolith organs. So when there is Meniere's disease, there is excessive collection of fluid, that is endolymph, in the membranous labyrinth. Usually when we take a cross section of the inner ear, it is divided into two compartments, that is the scala vestibuli and scala medium. So excessive collection of fluid in the scala media pulls the Reisner's membrane which separates these two compartments and it bulges into the scala vestibuli. And this results in abnormal sensations, abnormal signals to the brain, and we experience it as a vertigo and tinnitus. The clinical features of Meniere's disease is characterized by a triad of vertigo, tinnitus and hearing impairment. So now coming to vertigo. Vertigo is a sensation of self-motion which is subjectively felt by the patient when there is no actual movement occurring in the surrounding. We should understand that Meniere's is the commonest cause of autogenic vertigo also. So whenever a patient is coming to us with vertigo, we have to differentiate it whether the vertigo is due to some central cause or it is due to peripheral cause. So central causes may be due to disseminated sclerosis, intracranial diseases like disseminated sclerosis, vascular accidents or meningitis, whereas the peripheral causes may be due to visual disorders or autogenic disorders. So autogenic disorders like in vertigo, it can be without deafness and with deafness also. But in Meniere's disease, the vertigo is due to, it is with deafness only, like vestibular schwannoma, Meniere's disease, ototoxicity, etc. Whereas in vertigo without deafness, it is seen in benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. So a typical attack of vertigo in Meniere's disease is it is characterized by a feeling of fullness, pressure or congestion in the ear, and somebody may experience it as a feeling of hearing, abnormal sounds or a diminution in the hearing before the attack of vertigo. And during the attack of vertigo, the patient may experience some cold sweats or diarrhea, increased heat sensation also. And the duration of the vertigo, it also varies typically, like it should last at least 20 minutes, but it can last up to 24 hours. That is even a day, it can last even up to a day. Now the second symptom of Meniere's disease, which is a tinnitus aurium, which is a sensation of sound perceived by the patient and which originate within himself. There are different types of sound which is perceived by the patient, like whistling, buzzing, steaming, roaring, clicks, etc. Obviously, the buzzing sound is the most common thing which we get in our OPDs. So whenever a patient is coming with tinnitus disease, we have to see whether it is associated with deafness without deafness. So if it is without deafness, it is due to cardiovascular diseases, anemia, etc. Now the third symptom of Meniere's disease is the hearing impairment. Hearing impairment in Meniere's disease is typically sensory neural hearing loss for low to middle frequencies, whereas in long run it can involve the middle and high frequencies, resulting in pantonal hearing loss. So the hearing loss is documented with the help of an audiometry. Now audiogram, it is a graph which records the softest sound the patient can perceive. So closer the graph to the top, the softer the sound the patient can perceive. So where the different degrees of where the graph falls in the it indicates a different degrees of hearing loss of the patient, as we can see in this audiogram, which ranges from normal hearing to profound hearing loss. So next is the audiogram in Meniere's disease. Now you can look into this graph, in which the graph is typically sloping in nature, and this is typical of sensory neural hearing loss in Meniere's disease. Now the most important thing is diagnosis. How we can diagnose a Meniere's disease considering all these points. So now we can understand that the diagnosis is mainly clinical. From the clinical features we can diagnose the condition, but the physicians tend to overdiagnose this condition because there is no gold standard test available for the diagnosis. So Meniere's is mostly known as a committee disease. As you can see in this publication, the diagnosis of Meniere's disease was postulated as a diagnostic criteria by a committee of experts, and it was published in the Journal of Vestibular Research in 2015. According to this expert committee, it is divided into definitive Meniere's disease and probable Meniere's disease. So in definitive Meniere's disease, we are having vertigo, 2 or more episodes of vertigo, and it can last from 20 minutes to 12 hours. And there will be audiometrically documented low to medium frequency hearing loss. The next is the fluctuating oral symptoms, and there should not be any other vestibular cause. All the other vestibular causes of vertigo has to be ruled out with appropriate test. That is definitive Meniere's disease. Now probable Meniere's disease, we are having all the features in definitive Meniere's disease except for the audiometrically documented sensory neural hearing loss. There are many recent advances in the diagnosis of Meniere's disease, although these are rarely used. Like one is the intratympanic injection of gadolinium-based contrast agent, and we to go for an MRI of the CP angle. Next is the electrocochleography, and another one is wideband tympanometry. These are rarely used. So once we get a patient, we have to diagnose the case keeping in view the following points. The first and foremost important one is the clinical features, in which the patient presents with the vertigo, the oral fullness, and the hearing impairment. It may be associated with other symptoms like diarrhea, vomiting, etc. It depends upon the patient. Next is you go for an otoscopy, in which you can find that the external auditory canal is normal and the tympanic membrane is also normal. Now you can diagnose the hearing impairment clinically by doing a tuning fork test, in which we can see that the Weber is lateralized to the normal ear if the deafness is so if the Meniere's has affected only one ear, that if it is unilateral, the Weber will be lateralized to the normal ear. Now you go for a pure tone audiometry, in which you can confirm that the sensory neural hearing loss is present, which is initially from the low to middle frequencies. Next you can go for a recruitment test like CC, in which you can confirm the cochlear pathology of the deafness. For diagnosing a case of Meniere's disease, we have to keep in view the following differential diagnosis also, like vestibular migraine, vestibular paroxysmia, transient ischemic attacks, vestibular schwannoma, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, endolymphatic sac tumor, etc. Now we can move on to the main part of this seminar, that is the homeopathic therapeutics. How homeopathy can benefit the patients who are diagnosed with Meniere's disease. So from our clinical experience, we can say that most of the patients who are coming to our OPD with symptoms of Meniere's disease, they were on conventional medicines and they want to switch over to homeopathy, considering the safety, reliability, cost effectiveness, and also they want a permanent solution to their problem. So homeopathy is based upon the basic principle of cure, simplima simplibus curante, which was put forward by Hippocrates, and later it was clinically experimented and postulated by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. So homeopathic literature has a number of medicines, and there are about 49 medicines for Meniere's disease as per the modern repertory, in which there are many sub-rubrics which describes more medicines also. So when we are coming to the medicine list, I have here listed some medicines which are commonly used and found to be useful in the management of Meniere's disease. Like you can see here, pulsatilla, conium, sulfur, natrum muriaticum, phosphorus, causticum, calcareum, silicea, chininum sulf, natrum salicylate, chinopodium, carbonium sulf, salicylic acid, bryonia, tabacum, theridion, cocculus. These are the medicines which are commonly indicated in our OPDs which for these symptom, vertigo, tinnitus, etc. So all these medicines which are having the common symptoms of Meniere's disease, they are having the common symptoms of Meniere's disease. Now how we can select a medicine from this group of medicines? So apart from these common symptoms, all these medicines are having their own unique symptoms. Like some medicines may be having associated nausea with that vertigo, some are having the typical head movement aggravation with that vertigo. So we have to differentiate what is the symptoms which is present in the patient which can be attributed as unique to a drug. Apart from these symptoms of auditory symptoms, we also record the general symptoms of the patient, like physical generals, in which we consider the appetite, thirst, bowel movements, sleep, etc. And we also consider the mental symptoms of the patient, which is typical mental symptoms, and we construct a totality from this, all the general and particular symptoms of the patient, and we find the most similar medicines according to the patient, and we refer to the repertory in Metra Medica, and we give the most similar medicines, and there comes the action of the principle simile similibus current. Along with the medicinal management, we also advise the patients regarding the conservative management. That is, during the acute phase of the disease, we advise the patient to take complete bed rest. Also, the patients are advised to restrict their fluid intake and have a low sodium diet. They are cautioned not to drive, especially during the severe attacks of vertigo, and they are advised to do Cawthorn head exercises and other vestibular rehabilitation exercises. Now we can go into the research part, in which we will be discussing first on the previous publications on this Meniere's disease, and in which shows the effectiveness of homeopathic medicines in the management of vertigo. The first publication was a clinical experimental test and equilibrimetric measurement of the therapeutic action of a homeopathic drug consisting of ambra, cocculus, conium and mineral oil in the diagnosis of vertigo and nausea by Clausen CF et al., and it is in 1984. In this paper, it was found that a sample of 40 vertigo and nausea patients was treated by a combined drug containing cocculus, conium, ambra, mineral oil, and this combination is known as vertigo heal, which is still used, and statistical evaluation showed that the different vertigo and nausea symptoms as well as the trigger mechanisms of vertigo and nausea, like getting up, turning the head or gazing aside, highly significantly improved due to the therapy. Another publication on the clinical efficacy of vertigo heal in the treatment of vertigo of various etiology by Moravec et al. In Pan Minerva Medica during 1993. And in this paper, a group of 31 patients were treated with vertigo heal medications, and 8 patients were already diagnosed with Meniere's disease, and the authors found regression of clinical symptoms in majority of cases in investigated group who were treated with the vertigo heal medication. Another publication is on the microcirculatory effects of a homeopathic preparation in patients with mild vertigo, an intravital microscopic study by R. Klopp et al. In this, it was a non-randomized open study in which 16 patients were given vertigo heal were compared with 16 untreated patients, and the measurements were carried out in 2 areas, the cuticulum and subcuticulum of the inside left lower arm, an area 5 mm behind the left earlobe. After 12 weeks of treatment, patients receiving the homeopathic preparation exhibited an increased number of nodal points, increased flow rate of erythrocytes in both arterioles and venules, increased vasomotion, and a slight reduction in the hematocrit value. The microcirculatory changes were associated with a reduction in the severity of vertigo in the actively treated patients, both as assessed by the treating physician and by the patient themselves. Next study is on homeopathic versus conventional treatment of vertigo, a randomized double-blind controlled clinical study by Michael Weischer et al. And it was published in Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery during 1998. It was a randomized double-blind controlled clinical study, and it was a multi-centric study involving 15 centers done in Germany. A total of 119 patients with vertigo of various origins were analyzed, and in the results it was found that both homeopathic and conventional treatment showed a clinically relevant reduction in the mean frequency, duration and intensity of vertigo. It was concluded that both remedies reduced the frequency, duration and intensity of vertigo attacks during a 6-week treatment period. So treatment of vertigo, another publication is on a treatment of vertigo with a complex remedy compared with usual treatments. So it was a meta-analysis of clinical triad by Barthol Schreiner et al. And the results showed the applicability of meta-analysis on the data from studies with homeopathic drugs and support the results from the individual studies indicating good efficacy and tolerability of vertigo heal in patients with vertigo. Another study, it is dating back to 2019. It was published in the Journal of Neuroscience and Medicine, and it was titled In Vitro Hippocampal Electrophysiology and In Vivo Quantitative EEG Revealed Robust Neurophysiological Effects of the Anti-Vertigo Agent Vertigo Heal, and it was in a Fisher rat study. It was by Wilfred Dimpel et al. So, my research was an observational retrospective case series study which was done in National Homeopathy Research Institute in Mental Health, Kottayam, and the study was published in International Journal of Ayush Case Reports during 2020. The title was Evaluation of Outcome of Homeopathic Treatment in Probable Meniere's Disease, a case series in which we have analyzed 16 cases which were diagnosed with Meniere's disease, and it was found that 14 out of 16 patients improved with our medications, and it was constitutional medications based on the totality, as the acute as well as the particular as well as the general symptoms were considered, the totality were constructed, and the most similar medicine was selected as and prescribed as per the homeopathic principles. And as you can see here, the common medicines which were indicated were causticum, pulsatilla, calcareous carb, natromure, etc. And all the 14 patients, there was complete relief for vertigo. 14 patients who improved with the medications, there was complete relief for vertigo, and in 2 patients there was no relief, whereas tinnitus was completely cured in 7 patients. So the rest of the patients, the clinical tinnitus improved to varying degrees. Although there was no complete relief, majority of the patient had clinically significant reduction for the symptom tinnitus also. So this was all regarding the scope of homeopathy in the management of Meniere's disease and the research publications so far in homeopathy on Meniere's disease. So if you have any queries, you can contact our institute in this given number, or you can email us at nhrimkottayam@ccrhindia.nic.in. Thank you everyone for your patient listening.